What's up, leaders? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Andy, and I am so excited to be here today. I'm so excited to be making this video and making a comeback. This is the video of all videos, and I think the moment that every Christian kind of dreams about is when we get to share our unique story and why I follow Jesus, why I believe in Jesus, how I came to Jesus, right? It is truly the most incredible story of my life. So I'm so excited to share with you guys today. I hope that you accept me with all your grace and you accept me after I kind of take you down the wild road that has been my life. I think the Lord uniquely allowed me to go through a lot of very different scenarios in life, and really gave me a very wide perspective as to where Jesus is at in multiple areas that we sometimes fall into as people, as human beings, when we're looking for him. So I'm so excited to get into it, and welcome me back to YouTube. Okay, I'm so excited to start posting videos again. I really feel like I'm in such a good space now with the Lord, and I've grown so much these past 3 years as a Christian. So excited to start giving my heart and some more content to you guys, all for the glory of Jesus. Amen. Let's get into it. I don't really know when exactly I first learned about Jesus, but I knew that when I was little, I had heard the story of Jesus. I didn't really grow up in a Christian home, and I wasn't like raised Christian, I guess you could say. But my dad did like read me Bible stories, and he bought me like little Bible DVDs, not VeggieTales. I was never a VeggieTales kid, unfortunately. But I kind of like, as a kid, I remember thinking like, I believe in God, and I thought there was a God, and I remember even throwing tantrums to God before, which is kind of crazy. But I don't think I really had like a concept of actual like Christianity and what that meant. You know, I kind of just believed there was a God, and I had heard the story of Jesus. So that was like how I grew up. I remember in junior high, I had a friend that would go to church, and I never really went to church growing up, like just a very few handful of times. But I had a friend that her mom worked for the church, so her and her sisters were always going to church. And I remember like being inside those services and even going to like little worship concerts and stuff with her, but there was that altar call to like be saved and give your life to Christ, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I knew that I did not want to be saved because I was so afraid that I would make a mistake if I did that. Like, I would get saved and then I would still make a mistake and I would still sin, and I honestly still wanted to sin. Like, I thought that if I got saved, like, I would just be judged for the rest of my life for some reason. Like, I know distinctly this is what I thought. I don't know why. But so I remember being in junior high and being like, no, and just not really understanding God at all. When I got to high school is when I really first formed a true relationship with God. And that kind of came through conspiracy theories. Like, back in my day when I was in high school, there would be like just YouTube videos about like the Illuminati and like the evil inside of music, in the music industry and in the media. So I remember going down like those rabbit holes and being like, oh my gosh, this stuff really is evil, like, and feeling fear about that kind of stuff. And I remember just getting so like kind of wrapped up in that and in those conspiracy theories that I started to question like, what is really going on around me? Like, if this is truly evil and they're serving the devil, then there must be a God as well, right? So I don't remember exactly like when I had that turning point into God, but I do remember just somehow finding God. I think it might have been through prayer, maybe. Mind you, in high school I used to smoke a lot of weed, and I used to drink a lot and party a lot. Since my freshman year in high school, like, I did absolutely terrible in school because I was just drinking and partying and smoking weed. So there was it's a bit blurry, but I remember my very first encounter with God, and this is gonna sound crazy, but I remember I was high and I was sitting in my bedroom and I was praying, and I just felt like this spirit kind of like wash over me, like tingle in my arms. Like, I can literally perfectly still visualize like right where I was sitting on my bed and just like kind of feeling like just this feeling of like maybe the presence of God or something. And I smoked all the time, so like if you know anything about smoking weed, or if you've ever smoked weed yourself for a period of time, like you know that it's not a hallucinogenic experience, and when you're used to it, it kind of becomes normal. So like to me, I thought I was just, you know, normal all the time. So it really was like a unique experience. I just so happened to be high as well, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I just remember like kind of having this feeling and thinking in that moment, like, I believe in God. Like there's just something that drew me to God. Like I said, this was, I mean, I was in high school. This I think was my sophomore year, so 2011, right? So it was quite a few years ago. I graduated in 2014, so it was like 2011, 2012. So over 10 years ago this happened. So I'm trying to recall as best as I can, but I just remember thinking like, oh my goodness, like I believe, something drew me to God from that experience. So after that, I started just watching all kinds of sermons on my computer, and just like watching sermons on TV, like the Christian networks, and just like really starting to discover God and like hear sermons for the first time, hear pastors talk on the Word of God for the first time, read the Bible for myself for the first time. And just like, I remember being so amazed by God during high school, and just like during that first season of my life. And even if I look back at like the memories that Facebook gives me, I used to talk so much about God on Facebook. I'm like, the flood was amazing. This is what this word means in Hebrew. Like, if you just knew God, you would understand that science like totally backs up everything that God says in the Bible. Like, I just remember being like so excited about it. And it was a good time, and my life was far from perfect, and I had no other Christians around me. Like, I come from a small town, so I didn't like take myself to church. I don't know why. I never like went to church through that season. I think a part of me thought that I was still a bit confused. Like, even though I had like this new fresh love for God, I was still very confused because I never had seen Christians before. I didn't like have anyone leading me. I was just watching a bunch of random YouTube videos. So ultimately I had this love for God, but I was still kind of confused. And when I was in high school, like I said, I was drinking and partying and smoking and doing bad things with my boyfriend and my friends and all that stuff still. And I remember I would sneak out of my house at night, and I would pray that I wouldn't get in trouble and that my parents wouldn't find out, and I would make it home without falling asleep at the party or whatever, you know? Stupid stuff like that, like absolutely just insane. But that's what, you know, 14, 15, 16-year-old me thought was being blessed, right? Because I thought that I was, you know, smart enough to make all my own decisions, and my parents didn't understand, and blah, blah, blah. So, needless to say, I was in a very interesting season, but I do remember just really like loving God so much, and I distinctly remember praying to him like, please don't ever leave me, like, Jesus, you're so good. Now as time went on, I got a boyfriend in high school. I got really involved in his life because he had a pretty messy life, and when you're with a guy that has problems, as a girl you just kind of throw yourself into that and you want to fix everything, right? So I had a lot of honestly messy friendships. All my best friends were getting real heavily into drugs towards my senior year. Like I said, I think I came to God in this way my sophomore year, and then by senior year I had kind of like fallen away because I had just started living my life, and I didn't really put like my life and God together. I didn't understand that you shouldn't have premarital sex, you shouldn't be smoking weed and doing drugs. Like, I don't know why I did not make that connection, but to me I thought, you know, if you're saved, then you don't really have to care about sin. Like, you could still like kind of do whatever you want because you're saved. Even though I did feel a lot of guilt and I saw the bad going around me, I still just like didn't make the connection. I do remember being like in high school and sometimes talking with boys and being like, what do you think about waiting till marriage? Like, would you ever be with a girl that wanted to wait till marriage? So there was a part of me that was like trying to figure out what was right and what was wrong, but there wasn't any like clear, this is right, this is wrong. So ultimately that led me to fall away. I remember when I got out of high school, I had kind of left all my friends and my boyfriend because they were getting a little too crazy for me. They had started doing like really heavy drugs, and I luckily, by the grace of God, did not get into heavy drugs, because all of my best friends from high school have either now at this point in their life are like in and out of rehab, in and out of prison, and it is very, very sad. And I don't know why that wasn't my story too, because I walked right alongside them. And I even did try some pretty addictive drugs, and still for some reason I was able to get out of that situation with clean hands. So I totally believe that that was the grace of God. After high school, I kind of dropped all my friends and I moved down to the valley, you know, the big city. I came from a small town, now I'm living in a big city, and I still was drinking so heavily. I had stopped smoking weed because I felt pretty unproductive smoking weed, but I was like completely replaced that with drinking, and I was drinking like a maniac, like a psychopath. I don't know like literally I don't know why or what I thought I was thinking, but I just thought that that was okay. And it got to the point where I got sick. Right before my 20th birthday, I was drinking with some friends, and then the next day I just felt so off. I remember like feeling like I just couldn't control my body. I couldn't control my face. Like I remember I like was laughing at one point and drooling, and like it was just a very weird day, and it freaked me out. It scared me so bad because I'm like, this is so weird. Like, what is wrong with my body? So I was at home, unfortunately, and I had my mom take me to the hospital because I was just freaking out, and I was experiencing my first panic attack. I didn't know that, but I ended up going through a season of just regret. I felt so much regret for all the choices I had made. I thought I had hurt my body and that there was going to be something wrong with me for the rest of my life, because like in that it was just something that clicked, and I started to have a revelation after that panic attack that like, this is my one body, and alcohol and smoking weed and all the things that I had been doing so heavily for so many years at this point. Like I started drinking heavily when I was 15 years old, and now I'm like 19, right? So 4 years of just heavy drinking and everything else. I was just so afraid. I'm like, I probably damaged my body to the point of like, I'm gonna have something wrong with me. And I remember being so freaked out the first few weeks after that very first panic attack that I was just constantly in a panic. I remember going to sleep like shaking in my bed because I just had so much regret and so much fear as far as the way I had treated my body. And I remember praying to God. This whole season of anxiety, like strong, almost crippling, just regret and anxiety, lasted for, I would say, about like a good 4 or 5 months. I was just afraid of everything. I stopped like drinking coffee. I just was so afraid and living in this fear. And I remember praying to God and being like, Lord, save me from this anxiety, like save me from this bad feeling that I have. Save my body, like just fix me. And I remember not feeling fixed. I felt like God did not answer a single prayer for me in that season. At least that's how I felt in the season, you know? And I just felt like I didn't understand God. You know, at that point I had stopped listening to sermons, really. I had no like true physical connection to God, just other than this belief and this like, you know, past moment where I had really believed in him. So yeah, I just remember being really, really lost. And finally I moved. In between that time I had moved back home with my parents, and then I moved back down here to the city. And when I got a job, I had met a friend at work, and he started talking to me about spirituality. He started talking to me about, you know, like the supernatural world around us, and it really piqued my interest because I, up until this point, had never met anyone that could talk to me about anything on that level. Like I never had anyone I could talk to about Christianity, about God, about like the supernatural, about evil, you know, because that's what originally brought me in, was like this evil, like all this conspiracy theory stuff. So when he started bringing that up, I like attached to him like crazy. I was like tell me everything that you know about spirituality, because you're the first person that ever gets it. And so I started dating this guy and spending all this time with him, and it was him and his friend. And I don't want to go too deep into this because I do want to make like a whole separate video about this, but they just both started pouring into me like all these spirituality concepts, all these like ancient Egyptian emerald tablet, law of attraction, like all these just like really deep like spiritual concepts, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk about this stuff. I've never been able to talk about this stuff before. But the original dude that I met, he kept telling me that I am my own God. And at first that did not sit right with me. I was like, that's impossible. Like, how can I be God? You know, God is so much bigger than me. And he was like, no, God is inside of you. You are a part of God, therefore you are God, and you have so much like control over life. And that's truly what it means to like be, that's truly what God means. Like, God is me. Like, God doesn't have a face. I'm the face, therefore I am God. You know, I don't know. He just kind of like kept drilling that in to me, and I remember thinking like, that's kind of crazy. But I met his friend, and his friend was amazing. Like, he was one of the craziest people I have ever met, as far as like the types of knowledge and things that he had and would say. And he really like kind of convinced me that there's just so much more out there, and all these things that we learn about in religion are just a sliver of what truly it means to like know God. So I did eventually agree with them, and I was like, okay, like I obviously didn't know what I was talking about before, and I was wrong before. So maybe this is truly it. Maybe this is truly what God means, and this spirituality. Like, I've never heard anyone else talk about this, so you guys get it. You get it. So I basically kind of fell down that rabbit hole, and it wasn't like overnight I turned into this person, but I was led astray from that moment forward when I kind of just started to like accept what he was saying about that. So I did, I spent about 6 or 7 months with this person, and as time went on, I just got deeper and deeper, and we started, you know, watching all kinds of like really weird videos about ancient Egyptians and just all these spiritual stuff. And they would use tarot cards, they would do like weird little rituals with like drugs and alcohol. They would like only eat certain foods and fast, and just all kinds of stuff. They started like introducing me to all kinds of different stuff. I remember reading like some different religious books, like Buddhist books and the Bhagavad Gita, and just like trying to understand, you know, life on this deeper level. So I walked through that season with them, and it got pretty deep. Like it was to the point where I had totally, towards the end, I totally was like, I have power. Like there really is no like big God. There's just like this energy of like, I don't know, aliveness. Like there is something to being alive, but there's no big God. It's just life, and I am the highest form of creation, so I get to determine what is going to happen to me and what's not going to happen, and you know, blah blah blah. So I accepted that into my heart, and by the end of it, I like thought I was queen of the world. And I had started to look into like witchcraft and just like how to manipulate my life so that I can ascend and I can get whatever I want. And ultimately I looked into like how to become super powerful and super wealthy through like manifestation, law of attraction, stuff like that. So I went from that new age type of just the spiritual side of things to the okay, let's make this spiritual stuff physical now. If I am my own God, then I want to make as much money as I possibly can. I want to be powerful. I want to be loved, like all of it. So I dumped that guy, and I went out into the world, and I thought I could, you know, kind of basically sin freely, because if I am God and there is no overhead God, like, then right or wrong is basically up to me. So from then on, I got pretty greedy, and I got really obsessed with money, and obsessed with like, you know, kind of proving myself through how much money I could have, how influential I was, how many Instagram followers I had, where I was going, who I was hanging out with, what kind of car they drove. Like, you know, I just got super into the wealth culture with like no boundaries, right? I thought I could do whatever. If I needed to sleep my way to the top, if I needed to scheme my way to the top, if I just, you know, whatever, like I was gonna do it, and I was gonna be cold-hearted about it. I really wanted to be like this cold-hearted person, cold-hearted killer, right? So I really just went into like the greedy lifestyle, and I met a lot of people, hung out with a lot of people, but there was just still something lacking. And I would say I spent about 2.5 years or so just really like working on this entrepreneurship side of myself. But I had become so empty after all of these different experiences that even when I had highs, it was never enough. And when I had lows, I just felt empty. Like, I don't know how to explain it. So throughout that season, I was just, searching and searching and searching to fulfill myself, to exalt myself. And it ultimately like didn't work, didn't really lead me anywhere. And I'm glad, because maybe if I was more successful, if I had gained more money, I don't know like where I would have been, even though I fully believe that God had a plan for me. But what had happened was I had again moved back after living in the valley for like a few years straight. I had moved back home because I was just, oh, actually it was 2020, it was COVID. So by March 2020, I had came back home again, and I was living with my parents again, and the world was like going crazy because of this whole COVID stuff. And I just remember it was also election time. Like, really put yourself back in 2020, everything that happened. Like, that was a crazy, crazy year. It was honestly a really good year for me, which you're about to hear about. But it was a crazy year because it was also election time. So there was all of that heat going on with the, Democrats versus Republicans, and everybody hated Donald Trump at that time. We all thought he was so evil. And the Democrats were saying like, Black Lives Matter, and it was a crazy time to be alive, right? So I remember posting something bad about Donald Trump on my Facebook or my Instagram story, and one of my friends that I had met in entrepreneurship, he was very successful, millionaire, really cool dude, lived out in New York, black guy. He reached out to me through Instagram, and he was like, hey, I think this was like a conversation that had kind of like happened a bit, but he was like, Donald Trump is like not the worst person for black people. Like, I think that's just a media tactic, and I as a black man support Donald Trump. And I remember like, and I don't want to get into this on this video, so please don't make the comments about that. I'm just sharing with you like what happened and what was going on at that time. And I remember like kind of being like, whoa, I never thought about it that way, because he explained like a few things to me, and he was an entrepreneur as well. So he was like, Donald Trump is for the black people and the entrepreneur people, so I don't know what you're posting on Instagram. Like, he tried to check me, But I remember like being open-minded to it and listening to what he said, and I was like, oh, like that's crazy. I honestly did not see it this way. And he sent me a video about this politician that was talking about Donald Trump, not like an official politician, some like YouTube political commentator basically, like a podcast. So he sent me this video, and I was listening to it, and the guy was also Christian in the video, and he started to like bring up the end times and like kind of this like conspiracy theory about Donald Trump and the end times and the election and what was going on. And I remember watching that video and just kind of being like, interesting. Like, I remember all this end time like conspiracy theory stuff that I used to look up in high school. And I watched a couple more videos of that specific guy, and it kind of just led me down this like a little bit of a rabbit hole of like watching sermons again, because the more of the videos I would watch, the more like I was curious again about like what the Bible said and what Christianity was thinking in these times. And so I kind of went down like a mini like sermon binge that day. And I remember like at the end of that, it was probably midday, like 5 o'clock ish, 4 or 5 o'clock. I remember just kind of sitting in my bed like, what did I just open up? Like, something in me just kind of opened up, and I remember thinking that God was kind of talking to me in that moment and saying like, hey, remember me? Because for these past couple years I had completely turned my back on God, and it felt like he was saying like, you remember me, like you remember the realness of me and who I am, and now I'm coming to you where you're at and asking you like, will you believe in me again? Do you believe in me again? Or are you going to continue to reject me for the rest of your life? Do you really believe that you are your own God and that you're doing things right now? I just remember like kind of like being checked in that way, and immediately like just in that moment surrendering back to the fact that I do believe in God, and I do believe that God is not me, you know, and everything that I've been practicing was not it. Like, I just remember kind of like surrendering that and coming back to God and praying for the first time probably in years in that moment and being like, Lord, yes, I remember you and I want you again. And I don't know exactly like what the prayer is, but I know like that day it was like the scales had fell off my eyes, right? My hardened heart had softened, and I looked back at all these seasons of my life that I had gone through, and I realized that even in this past season, like, I felt so empty. I felt like I was chasing something that I was never gonna get in this greedy season. I was chasing friends and people that were empty in their own rights too, and that didn't really love me and that didn't really care for me. I just looked at that whole season. I thought, this is so empty, and I'm chasing money for money's sake, and nothing I care about is in my life right now. So from that day forward, I pretty much chose God again, and I'm so glad that he met me in that place. And I think he's so faithful for doing that, because he did not give up on me, even though I said terrible things about him in the past. And so it was hard moving forward from there, because I had so much of this new age like concepts in my head, like all this manifestation, all this I'm God, I get to choose. It was just hard for me to understand what it meant to be on God's side, like the Christian God side. But I knew that from my experiences that if you want to get good at something, or you want to like really go deep into something, you need to find a group. You need to find a group that you can be around, because that's where you're gonna like network basically. So I used my networking expertise and thought, I need to find a church, because I need to know like what is going on, and if I care about this, I need to be involved in this. So I finally went to church. You know, I started going to church for the first time, and I remember the first like Sunday, first or second Sunday that I had gone, I would come out of that chapel just feeling so defeated, because I would sit in there and the pastor would say things, and I would in my heart and my head be like, you're wrong, that's not how that works. This is how, like, I just had all these like manifestation, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but all these new age things in my head. So everything the pastor was saying, I was just so like combative in my head and in my heart against it. And I like basically was sitting there rolling my eyes like, this is almost silly, but I still believed in God. So I would go to my car and I would kind of cry, and I'd be like, Lord, like, you're gonna have to change these feelings inside me. You're gonna have to show me who you are. You're gonna have to teach me, because right now, like, I don't love you. I believe in you, but I don't believe in you. Like, I don't believe in these things that they're saying. I don't know what's right from wrong anymore. So you're gonna have to like cleanse me of all of this stuff, and you're gonna have to help me love you again. So I remember praying that, but I still just, you know, would go to church. I started watching sermons again. I found a couple churches on YouTube that I really liked watching, so I would kind of watch them faithfully, and just was trying to reintroduce myself. So that probably all happened like April, May, and life kept going on, and for whatever reason I stayed close to God and maintained that relationship. And I would say probably around like September, I remember I was watching the sermon, and when the sermon was over, I was just like in my bed crying and like praying to God and just telling him like, God, I felt so much love by God, and I remember thinking like, I love you so much, you love me so much, like this is just love, like this is true pure love like I've never felt before. And I just remember being so happy and just praying that to him, like, I love you so much, Lord, I love you so much, Lord, like, thank you so much for loving me, thank you so much for calling me back and not abandoning me when I abandoned you, and for just taking me back as like dirty and awful as I had been to you in previous seasons in my life, and dirty and awful as I had been to other people. Like, just thank you for bringing me back and loving me. And I remember in that moment, it brought me back to when I first got back my relationship with God, and I was going to church, and I specifically told him like, you're gonna have to help me love you, because I don't understand it, I don't see it right now. And so that was just like a beautiful moment, and it was kind of like a full circle moment. And I got baptized October 4th, 2020, and I have been with God ever since, you know, closer than ever. And he continues to walk by my side. Like, it was so good that first year back with God, because it's like you're in the honeymoon stage. But even when that high, I guess you will, like, started to calm down, and my walk became much calmer, and I came back, you know, life came back, the world opened up again, and I was tempted to go back to different things, and I sometimes did. God still just walked by me every single day ever since, and he has been so faithful to me, and he is so good. So here I am in November 2023, so 3 years later, and just so in love with God and so on fire for God, and I feel so whole and so healed. And what I learned just looking back at my life and my journey to like a true and right relationship with Jesus, a relationship that believes in him and submits to him, I learned that through every season I was seeking something, and I never found that, and I never found myself until I found Jesus. I mean, Jesus is the truth, and knowing God helps you to know why I exist. It helps me to know why I exist, what I'm here for, what everything is here for, what life means. I know that now because I know my Creator, and I know Jesus and his love. And that's how I was able to find myself. When I was young and I was in high school and I was partying and drinking and smoking and everything else, I did it because I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to have fun and be grown, you know, make my own decisions. But ultimately I did it because I was insecure and I wanted to be accepted and viewed as cool, and have friends, you know. And obviously if you're drinking and you're smoking, it makes it a lot easier to have friends because you're just silly, right? So that's what I was looking for in high school. I had so much insecurity and so little self-worth, like such a small self-image, and just a lack of understanding of myself and what it even means to be worthy, right? That's what I was looking for in my party phase. And there was a lot of rebelliousness in that too. Like, I just wanted to rebel and do whatever because I could do whatever, you know? There was just like a part of like life that I felt you could do whatever. And when I transitioned into new age spirituality type of belief mindset, I was looking for God. You know, I was looking for understanding of what this world means and why I exist and who I am, like what I'm capable of. That's what I was searching for in the new age realm of things. And I also still wanted to find my power because I still did feel insecure, and I still cared a lot about like my image and my abilities, because I always thought if I could become this successful person, then I would prove everybody wrong that never believed in me growing up, and I would, you know, be undeniable. Like, people wouldn't be able to deny the fact that I'm valuable and I'm worthy. So that's kind of what I looked for in New Age. And in greed, the same thing. I was trying to build value for myself. I was trying to make an image for myself, and I was trying to explore this world for what it is. Like, and I was always searching for the deeper meanings of life. Like, I could never just accept that we're just here to, you know, wake up, eat, drink, sleep, go to have children, die, you know. I couldn't accept that that's all that life was. My mom has that perspective a lot. She doesn't really think like deeply about life or about the deeper like meanings behind life, and maybe that's where I wanted to prove things wrong. But I just wanted to prove that there is like something more going on here. There is power that you can tap into. There is a spiritual sense of things and a reason behind things. So yeah, in the wealthy, like greedy sector of my life, I just thought like, blow the lid off. Like, let's do it. Let's do weird stuff if that's gonna make us a ton of money and give us power, because obviously it works for a reason, right? Which I know sounds crazy, but it's also scary to think like how close I could have got to being what we hear about of these like evil rich people and how they do evil, bad, dark things. in order to get like this power and stuff. Like I literally was the type of person that accepted that, and I was like, okay, well, nothing's really wrong because there is no right or wrong, so let me just, I don't know, like I just wanted to tap into it. I've always had like this like kind of rebelliousness where I'm like, if you tell me something is bad, I'm gonna find out for myself. So yeah, that's kind of like how I felt in the whole greedy sector of things. Also, I think I had a lot of anger from my past and from people like not loving and accepting me when I was like younger, more naive. Because I feel like in high school I was sweet. I tried to be sweet. I always tried to like do the right thing and think deeper about what I was doing, and it felt like everyone around me did not care. They did not care about me. They used me. They lied to me. They manipulated me because I just allowed them, because I was always trying to do the right thing. And even as a Christian, I feel that sometimes too. Like when you're always doing the right thing, it's easy for you to get stepped on because people could easily like take advantage of you. So I think in this greedy area, I thought of all those people that had kind of hurt me in my past, and it made me like hard-hearted towards other human beings, other people, and just like the world. And yeah, and then when I found Jesus, he healed me right up. I mean, it took time. He's still doing his healing work in me. He's renewing and growing me every single day. But in all these past things, I was searching for identity. I was searching for love. And when I found Jesus, that's exactly what I found. He told me who I am, what I'm here for. He gave me love that I had never felt before, and he gave me such a power that when you feel loved and when you know who God is deep on the inside of you, you have a power that no one can take from you, because I know my God is always with me. And people are gonna sin. I understand that we're all sinners. We all do these stupid things out of our own stupidity, honestly, or just our own emotions or whatever we're going through. And so understanding that people are sinners just like me, I can now like move on without taking that personally, and I can still love, and I can still pick myself up. So basically that is my testimony. It's been a long journey, and the reason I start back in high school is because that's really when it started. And so now I come on here kind of knowing what it's like to walk those different paths in life, which I think some of us do. Like I see people out here that are just partying, doing drugs, kind of seeking pleasure, doing whatever they want. And I see people out here that are falling into this new age trap, looking to like tarot cards and palm reading and astrology and all of that stuff to find answers in life. And I see people that are turning to greed and entrepreneurship, and if I just make all this money and become successful, then I'll really be able to change the world, and I'll have this identity and I'll have this power. But I'm telling you, all of it is empty. And when you get to the ends of those books, you know, when you pick up the new age book and you read it all the way to the end, you'll see it's just so empty, it's so dark. Same with the entrepreneur book, same with the partying book. Like it all starts out good and it seems good in some ways, but when you really see it through to the end, if you don't have God, you don't have anything. And that's true with everything in life. Even if you have a relationship and you think this relationship is gonna fulfill me, if you don't have God, you don't have anything, and you'll never be fulfilled. And that's something that I just have experienced firsthand in all these different areas that I tried to find myself. Nothing can fulfill you except for Jesus. And that's just what I wanted to say today in this video. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of my past, and maybe I'll go more deeper into each category of life that I walked down. I even recently just got out of a relationship, and as a Christian I was in this relationship, but I didn't realize how much I had put my identity in this relationship too, and I had kind of like given myself over to this relationship and made it my first priority. And now coming out of it, I can see also just how none of these things, no matter what it is, none of them will fulfill you like the love of Jesus and a true walk with him. So I feel like I have a lot of perspective that I want to share and give to this channel and give to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope it kind of made a little bit of sense. And if it spoke to you, I would love for you to comment and follow along with me. And even if you want to share your story with me as well, I would love that. And I'm hoping and praying that all of us, no matter what age you are, where you are, that we just we accept Jesus into our hearts, and we realize that he is the way, the truth, and the life. There's nothing apart from him. And you don't even realize, when you don't have a close relationship with Jesus, how much you're missing. And when you do have a relationship with Jesus, my life, my heart, everything is so full, and it is so just at peace. Like, I have internal peace knowing my Creator. Thanks for watching. Jesus loves you too. You don't have to be perfect to come to him, obviously. Just give it all to him. He'll fix it. He will heal you. He will help you. He will love you. He will teach you. He will accept you where you are right now.